at the University and the Ministry of Health Technical Working Group, reviewing the monograph on medicinal plants in Ghana. Professor Appiah-Oppong is a board member and a mentor of the Africa Research Academy for Women in Science, where she trains brilliant young ladies from various universities in Ghana in her area of research. She has supervised and mentored 4 international postdoctoral fellows, 5 PhD students, and several MPhil and BSc students and interns from University of Ghana and other local and international universities. She is an associate editor-in-chief of the Health Sciences Investigations Journal of the College of Health Sciences, University of Ghana, from 2019 to date. Her research interest is in the area of toxicology, pharmacology. Her current research focuses on drug discovery, particularly of anti-cancer and anti-malaria agents from plant sources, cytochrome P450-mediated drug interactions, pharmacokinetics, pharmacogenetics, and antitoxic studies, antioxidant studies. You can see antitoxic, antioxidant studies. Previously, she was involved in anti-parasitosomal, anti-leishmaniacal, and anti-tuberculosis drug discovery studies. She has contributed to several research projects, serving as principal investigator or co-investigator in several projects. This is our remarkable speaker. Her work on anti-cancer and anti-malaria activities of medicinal plants has established the anti-cancer and anti-malaria properties of several medicinal plants used by traditional medicine practitioners to treat cancer and malaria. Her research on drug interactions has revealed the cytochrome P450-mediated drug interactions potential of some Ghanaian medicinal plant products. She was part of a research team that adopted the tetrazoline-based colorimetric selected assay, which is called MTT-based colorimetric-based assay, for high throughput testing of anti-malarial agents. She also played a role in the construction of a DNA cassette, the cassette vector that was useful for drug susceptibility testing of anti-HIV drugs. The outcome of this has implications for the use of protease inhibitors during the introduction of highly active antiretroviral therapy in Ghana. She had an opportunity for postdoctoral training at the Department of Pharmacology at the Yale University Medical School for a couple of months per year from 2009 to 2011, where she worked on the chemical and biological fingerprinting of some Ghanaian medicinal plants. Recently, Professor Appiah-Oppong served as an adjunct professor at the Department of Biomedical Sciences, School of Basic and Biomedical Sciences, University of Health and Allied Sciences at Hull, while she was on sabbatical leave from September 1st, 2023 to August 31st, 2024. She has published over 100 research articles in peer-reviewed journals and 5 book chapters in her field of study. Together with her collaborators, they have filed a PCT International Patent 2014 and a Provisional Patent 2011. Professor REGINA APPIAH-Oppong is a fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences. So audience here present and online, here is your speaker, the occasion speaker, your audience. Thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. I thank you. I'm very grateful to you all, each of you physically present and those online, for being here to listen to this lecture. I'd like to express my gratitude to the Almighty God for how far He has brought me.
There's just an interlude of singing before we start the lecture. Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening once again. So Professor Regina Appiah-Opong chose this hymn because it's the story of her life. And my hope is that this song will speak to you also. God sent His Son. They called Him Jesus. He came to love, heal, and forgive. He lived and died to buy my pardon. An empty grave is there to prove my Savior lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. How sweet to hold a newborn baby and feel the pride and joy He brings. But greater still, this calm assurance, this child can face uncertain days because He lives. Because He lives, I could face tomorrow. Because He lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives. Because He lives, I can face tomorrow. Because Jesus lives, all fear is gone. Because I know He holds the future, and life is worth the living just because He lives.
Thank you very much, Mana. God bless you. And so I would like to express my gratitude to the Almighty God for how far He has brought me. It is because He lives that I stand here. I thank the Academy for this opportunity. I am grateful to Emerita Professor Isabella Quakyi, Emeritus Professor Samuel Sepadidi, and my family for their encouragement. I pray that by the end of the lecture, everybody who has listened to the lecture will be convinced that medicinal plants are worth more than gold, which must be harnessed for national development and to contribute to reducing poverty in Ghana. Madam Chair, President of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, past presidents and vice presidents of the Academy, fellows of the Academy, distinguished guests, our students, the media, ladies and gentlemen, all protocols observed. The title of this inaugural lecture is Medicinal Plants, a Rich Natural Resource of Ghana to be Harnessed for National Development. As I was preparing for this lecture, I came across a City Business News article written by Benjamin Akyinbah. And the title is, "Let us harness the economic potential of medicinal plants." In this article, our own Professor Quakyi, fellow of the Ghana Academy of Arts and Science, now emeritus professor, in address reminded African nations that countries such as China have successfully leveraged traditional medicine to contribute significantly to global trade. He added that currently, traditional Chinese medicines account for 30% of total world trade. He said that although Africa has abundance of plant species, estimated at 45,000, only about 5,000 of them are utilized in traditional medicines. And after reading this, I reached out to him and I said, "Professor, I was excited to read your address, and particularly excited because I had decided on my title before I saw it, so I saw that we had something in common." This evening, I will provide, sorry. Please, can you move the slide for me? Yeah, sorry. Good. Thank you. This evening, I will provide a brief history on medicinal plant use, efforts to develop plant medicines in Ghana, and briefly discuss some of the research carried out to assess the efficacy and safety of plant medicines. I'll also discuss the commercialization of plant medicines and end with challenges associated with the plant medicine industry. And I will conclude and provide some recommendations and pointers for policies. The lecture is related to 3 out of the 17 SDG goals, Sustainable Development Goals. Goal 3, Goal 8, and Goal 9. Goal 3 is on good health and well-being. Goal 8, decent work and economic growth. And Goal 9, industry, innovation, and infrastructure. So, a history of medicinal plants use. Historical documentation of the use of plant medicines can be found in the Bible. So I brought you some quotes from the Bible. Genesis 1:29. "I have given every plant yielding seed that is on the face of the earth, and every tree with seed in its fruit, you shall have it for food." Ezekiel 47:12. "And on the banks, on both sides of the river, there will grow all kinds of food. Their fruit will be for food, and their leaves for healing." 2 Kings 27. "Then Isaiah said, prepare a poultice of figs. They did so, and applied it to the boil. And the king, King Hezekiah, recovered." So humans have used plant medicines from the beginning of our existence. I also wish to share a few quotes from Hippocrates. Hippocrates is a father of medicine, an eminent Greek physician. And he had these to say. He said, let your food be your medicine, and your medicine your food. Wherever the act of medicine is loved, there is a love of humanity. Walking is man's best medicine. He also said, there are, in fact, two things, science and opinion. The former begets knowledge, and the latter, ignorance. I leave these with you as food for thought. The use of herbs is a core part of all systems of traditional medicine. Herbal medicines remain one of the forms of therapies used by a large part of the world's population. In developing countries, almost all minor ailments are treated with herbal products or natural preparations. According to the World Health Organization, about 80% of people living in developing world depend on products of medicinal plants as their primary source of healthcare. Interestingly, about 40% of pharmaceutical products, including landmark drugs today, originated from plant products derived from traditional medicine. So a few examples. We have codeine. I'm sure you remember codeine. Codeine used to manage pain. And then also quinine, anti-malarial. And then also Taxol, paclitaxel. They are also anti-cancer agents. Over centuries and across countries, many people have turned to traditional healers, home remedies, and ancient medicinal knowledge to address their health and well-being needs. The earliest historical documentation on herbs was in the Sumerian civilization. In 3000 BC, hundreds of plants were listed on clay tablets. Traditional medicine that has been adopted by other populations, that is outside its original culture, is often termed complementary or alternative medicine. And so in Ghana, or countries with long history of traditional medicine, which of the medicines is complementary or alternative? Is it the traditional medicine or the allopathic or conventional medicine? I leave you to answer that question. It is estimated that there are over 400,000 plant species on Earth. A relatively small percentage, that's about 13% of these, are used as medicine. Plant medicine is a traditional cultural heritage of Ghana and reflects the ancient wisdom and knowledge passed down over the years from generations. Plant medicines play a significant role in the country's healthcare system, as approximately 80% of rural dwellers in Ghana depend on it for their healthcare needs. The benefits of plant medicines to Ghana are multifaceted, and they include cultural, economic, and health-related aspects. During the pre-colonial era, Ghanaians relied solely on plant medicines. Conventional or allopathic medicines were introduced to Ghana by our colonial masters. They considered traditional healing practices as primitive and or demonic, and banned them under the Native Customs Regulation Ordinance of 1878. However, the practice continued since it is the culture of our people. Now let's look at the development of plant medicines. After Ghana's independence from colonial rule, our first president, Osagyefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah's government, made efforts to recognize and promote the work of traditional healers. The government established the Ghana Psychic and Traditional Healers Association in 1961. The need for academic and scientific research into local medicines led the government to set up institutions such as the Center for Scientific Research into Plant Medicine, now Center for Plant Medicine Research. This was done under the inspiration of the late Dr. Akyinbah in 1975. Beyond that, there have been establishments of associations, institutions, organizations, and some instruments. So we have the Traditional and Alternative Medicine Directorate of the Ministry of Health, that's TAMD, Ghana Health Service, Ministry of Health. And then we also have the Ghana Herbal Pharmacopoeia, an instrument that was put together, established the Food and Drug Authority, Ghana Federation of Traditional Medicines Practitioners Association, GAFTRAM. We have the Traditional Medicine Practice Council, Ghana Association of Medicinal Herbalists, and then also the monograph on medicinal plants of Ghana. This monograph is currently being revised, and I happen to be on that committee that's doing that work. We have 35 hospitals in Ghana that are piloting integrative medicine under Ghana Health Service and Ministry of Health. I have just some literature. I brought just a few of them, but there's literature on medicinal plants. And we also have one from Mr. Abiu, Useful Plants in Ghana. There are institutions that are training people in this area of herbal medicine. We have the Department of Pharmacognosy, the Faculty of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences in KNUST. We have the Herbal Medicine Department also in KNUST. And this department sends students for 2-year internship at the Center for Plant Medicine Research and the Quakyi Memorial Hospital. We have nursing, BSc nursing students at CAF University College also being trained or have a course in traditional medicine. The Department of Pharmacognosy and Herbal Medicine, we have that in the schools of pharmacy in the University of Ghana. We have this in the University of Health and Allied Sciences and also University of Cape Coast. Then we have the Institutes of Traditional and Alternative Medicine at the University of Health and Allied Sciences. Let's look at some research that has been done on plant medicines. I want us to look at this just to support the fact that work is ongoing and everything is possible. And so I will start by discussing work on the assessment and efficacy of an anti-malarial medicine codenamed AM1. AM1. And this work was done in collaboration with herbalists, the Council for Scientific Herbal Practitioners and Industrial Research, Teshin Accra. The patients from his clinic. Unfortunately, the herbalist has passed on, but patients from his clinic, 5 of them were hospitalized at the University of Ghana Hospital. They were kept at the University of Ghana Hospital, and the ages were between 8 and 24, body temperature 36.1 to 39. So what was done? Preclinical studies, usually that was in animals to see whether this product was safe. So animals were treated to blood samples to see how's the liver, how's the kidney, what's going on in the animals. And then the clinical studies that were done. Initially, urine samples were taken to check to see whether the patients had already taken antimalarials before the treatment. And then treatment started, monitored whether the parasites were going up or down, whatever was happening. Took blood samples before and after the experiment, the period, to see whether there were any changes, any effects or not, these parameters. So this, there's a composition. AM1 is made from 4 different plants. And so those are the plants from which AM1 is. So we have the first one is Jatopa, Carcass. I think it's in a can, it's Nkranedria. And then the second one, we have Asawa, Gossypium hirsutum, and then Physalis angulata, that is Utoto. I think that's also a can. And then the last is very common. We call that the flamboyant plants, Philonyx regia. So let's look at what was done. So if you look with me, sorry, yes. If you look with me on this graph, on this graph. So this is the parasite density, this is 0 and going up. And this is the day of treatment, the days they were treated. The same with this other graph. There were 2 different parasite strains. Now we have about 6 different parasite, malaria parasite strains. 2 of them were found in these patients, P. falciparum and P. malariae. 4 of the patients had P. falciparum and 1 had P. malariae. And so this is day 0. On this line is day 0. So you see this patient here in the red line is 1. Each line is representing 1 patient. So the patient initially, the parastemia was very low. And after the first treatment, it went all the way up here. And then the treatment continued, it went all the way down until day 7 when everything was cleared. And for the other 3, this was the trend, also came all the way down. By day 5, everything was cleared. And for the one that went all the way up here, this is what we call numerous. The parastemia, we look under the microscope, it's so much, you stop counting, you just record numerous. And what could be happening? The parasites might be hiding in the liver or the spleen somewhere, and the medicine is able to flush them and bring them into the bloodstream, the peripheral blood, and it got them out. The patient also who had malaria, it took 7 days and it all was cleared. And so, AM1 was effective in the treatment of both P. falciparum and the P. malariae infections. And AM1 has a potential to cause, and we also found that it has a potential to cause drug interactions because we determined the effect on some enzymes in the liver, and we found that it had an effect on the enzymes. And so it was seen to have an effect, and therefore, which means that these are enzymes that are, we call them drug metabolizing enzymes. And so if you have something that affects them, it would affect another drug if you take them together. And so it is very important that for every drug that is produced, we know the effect, what it can do to these important enzymes, so that when you co-administer, you know what happens to them. And so when you find that out, you have to be careful what you take along with it. And so that was done, and we found that this drug had that potential. Although it had good activity, it had that potential, and so that had to be watched. So hair drug interaction potential must be further investigated in human, these are rats, and so we want to do that in humans as well. And clinical trials have to be done on this product. And the safety as experiments, as I showed no adverse effects on the liver, the kidney, and the liver and kidney function of both human and animals. And there was no effects on lipid and glucose level. There was no adverse effect on hemoglobin, on white blood cells, and there was no effect on the weights of the body, the liver, or the kidney. And so this study has been published. You can read it. The second study is on the anti-cancer potential of Ghanaian medicinal plants. And 23 plants were tested in aqueous and hydroethanolic extracts and we used leukemia cells, we had prostate cancer cells, and we also had breast cancer cells. So if you look here, so on this first graph up here, this is the number of extracts and this is their activity. So I must say that the activity is stronger when it's the figure is lower. So 100 is a stronger activity than 1,000. And so according to the Cancer Institute, when you have anti-cancer activity of extracts that is 30 microgram per ml or less, that is really good. And so for these extracts that we looked at, we found that 11 aqueous extracts and 15 of them had very good activity, less than 30 microgram per ml. And then that is for the leukemia. And then for prostate cancer, we had 1 aqueous extract and 2 hydroethanolic extracts that were very interesting, and for prostate cancer. And for breast cancer, we didn't find anyone, there were activities, but they were low. So if you look here, you see that there is nothing here. And so they were all very weak. Yes. And in fact, for breast cancer, it took us a long time before currently we have found some interesting activities, extracts and compounds that have activity. We're not finding many. It was the prostate and the other cell cancers. Further studies will be conducted to work on the bioactive extracts. I also want to present another anti-cancer medicinal plant, and this is Albizia zigia. The Akan is known as okoro. Okay. And so Albizia zigia is found in West Africa and used to treat tumors, claimed to be good for tumors, asthma, boils, leprosy, and so on. We wanted to validate the claims. And then also we looked at apoptosis in this. What is apoptosis? Big name, but it is not so big. Okay, so it is just a programmed cell death. So some of the plants are able, when you use them, they are able to help the immune system to program the death of the malignant cells, specifically going for the malignant cells. And that is a very good mechanism for anti-cancer agents. So you will see that in many studies that are done, you want to find out whether what you have found can do that, can program and get rid of the malignant cells. So we wanted to find whether this interesting thing, if it has activity, can it also do that? So I have the results summarized in this table here. I have mentioned that when the activity is low, then when the figure is low, then it has good activity. And so you can see from the jacket, 3 is really good, very low. So 3 is good activity. The AQLs had 3 in the leukemia, the cancer cell line, and the hydrotonins also 3. And when you come to the link up, that the prostate here also, that is very interesting. But when you come to the breast cancer, as I said, you can see that and the figures are going up. That is not very interesting. Okay. And then I have these figures in parentheses, in brackets here. These figures have to do with what we call the selectivity indices. And so when you test the drug and it's interesting, has good anti-cancer activity, well, that's fine. It's killing the cancer cell. But is it also killing normal cells? You want to find out. Because the problem we have is that most of the anti-cancer agents are toxic. They are toxic. They are killing normal cells and they are killing cancer cells. That is not a good drug. That is the problem we have with most of the anti-cancer agents. So you want to find out whether what you have can just select for cancer and leave the normal cells. So we would usually test the normal cells. So the numbers you have in parentheses is a figure that is called the selectivity index. And so it tells you that if the number is 2 or more, then you're happy because it tells you that whatever you have is selecting for the malignant cell. It is not just flashing everything out. So if you look into the brackets here that we have, if you look into these brackets here, you see that the figures are really high. So this is over 100, and this 80, this 3.5, this is the control. So here, so you see, but if you go to the breast cancer, you realize that we don't even get to 2, not even get to 1. So this is weak, this is not good selectivity. But for the prostates and the leukemia, these are very interesting activities that we found. And so the study has shown that Albizia zigia possesses anti-cancer activity and has good selectivity or selective toxicity against the prostate cancer and the leukemia cells that were tested. They have different prostate cancer cells. There's a particular cell line that we use, and also leukemia cell. There was weak activity, as we saw with the breast cancer cell line, and we also saw apoptosis as a mechanism by which the JACAT or the leukemia cell line was acting by apoptosis, and that's a desirable, as I explained, a desirable mechanism, so we're quite happy. So our findings therefore support the anti-tumor and traditional use of this medicinal plants, and studies are ongoing on this particular plant. Now, this study has been published. So the next I want to discuss is on the anti-trypanosomal isolation and characterization of anti-trypanosomal compounds from bioactive Morinda lucida extracts. The human African trypanosomiasis, as HAT, known as a sleeping sickness, is a major health challenge in many African countries, with thousands of new cases annually. In Africa, 2 species are mainly responsible for the disease: T. brucei gambiense and T. brucei rhodesiense. The T. brucei gambiense is responsible for 98% of the reported cases of sleeping sickness, and the rhodesiense is responsible for just 2% of the cases. The therapies are usually have side effects, and they have to be used for prolonged periods. Administration is prolonged, and some patients cannot also afford it. And so the focus of the study was to isolate compounds from M. lucida and evaluate the antitroposomal activity. A work had earlier been done to show that the extract had activity. And that's why the focus was on the compounds, isolate the compounds, show that they have activity. And then we also, as I mentioned, we also did the cytotoxicity of the compounds on human cells. So these are the results we found. So if you just look up here, just this line here, I did mention that when the activity is low, when we have low numbers, it's interesting, right? So we have here 0.3. That makes that one very interesting. This compound that was isolated, ML5F52. Okay, so these are 3 Nobel tetracyclic hydroid compounds. We have mollucidine, ML223, and MLF52. So this is interesting. This is also interesting. It's quite low. And here also very interesting. But then we also looked at the selectivity. And if you look at the numbers in the brackets, as I mentioned earlier, they are all greater than 2. They were tested against normal cells, which means then that they are going for the parasite and they are leaving your normal cells. So these are promising. So our compounds expressed strong antitroposomal activity and good selective indices. And these compounds, they be promising lead compounds for development of new therapies for this disease in both humans and also in animals. The findings also suggest that the compounds may not only be used for the T. brucei, but also for other protozoan parasites. This study has also been published. We look on further. The next thing that was done is that the last sentence I said was more of a hypothesis, right? That it could be useful for other protozoan parasites. So the next study was more of to prove that hypothesis. And so Leishmania parasite is a protozoan parasite. And so the same compounds were used again to find out whether they were really going to be useful. And Leishmaniasis is an infectious disease caused by the sandfly. And it's estimated that 350 million people over 88 countries worldwide are at risk of the infection. There are 3 forms of Leishmaniasis: the cutaneous Leishmaniasis, mucocutaneous Leishmaniasis, and visceral Leishmaniasis. The most common is cutaneous Leishmaniasis, which is caused by over 20 different species of the parasite. The disease is generally characterized by ulcers and nodules in the skin. In Ghana, one of the 3 ecological zones, the northern savanna, epidemiologically lies within the Leishmaniasis belt in Africa. Interestingly, there have been no cases there. Rather, the whole district of the Volta region has the highest reports on Leishmaniasis in Ghana. And so I just have a picture of the sandfly here. And then we have the parasite form. So this is the form that's in the fly, the pomacigote. And then this is the form in the humans. When it bites the human, it goes in there, it's converted to this form, and then multiplies in the human in this form. The parasite takes it and converts it back to this one, and then that cycle just continues like that. So the anti-Leishmania activity of the 3 compounds derived from the Morinda lucida were investigated in vitro. That's in the lab. So we use, they use field and they use the lab streams. And some assays that were used. I could skip that. So these are the results. Again, I have told you the trend already of the figures. So when you see a figure that is, this is not working anymore. But so when you see a figure that is low, like 4, that is good. We have 3.3, that is also good. But you see greater than 50, that's not okay. So we see that two of the compounds are showing interesting activities. Now let's look at the selectivity, the numbers in the bracket, just as I mentioned earlier, the same. So we see that in the Newman, we have at least 3 of them showing good selectivity, greater than 2. So that's not bad. So both mollucidin, that's those 2 we saw, those mollucidin and ML52 induce changes in the morphology of the Leishmania parasites. And so these 2 are likely to be promising lead compounds for development of new anti-Leishmania drugs. And of course, the extract itself could be formulated and used to manage the disease. This has also been published. So let's look at the commercialization of medicinal plants. The overall economic value of medicinal plants or herbal medicines cannot be discounted. Medicinal plants are a major source of income and livelihood, employing millions of people in developing and industrialized nations. They contribute significantly to gross domestic products globally. The largest markets are in China, France, Germany, Italy, Spain, Britain, and the United States. In 2023, China's export of traditional Chinese medicine products, including herbal medicine, was valued at $1.15 billion. Interest in the use of ethnobotanicals is increasing in industrialized nations. In 2012, the World Health Organization data showed that almost half of the population of many industrialized countries are regularly using these traditional and complementary medicines. So for US, it was 42%, Australia 48%, France 49%, and Canada 70%. And Japan is the world's largest consumer of natural medicines per capita. So I have these graphs here on the global herbal medicine market share by region in 2023. So as you can see from the top graph, this is the market size in US dollars. This is in billion US dollars. And the first, we have North America. In 2022, North America exported 68 billion US dollars of medicinal plants. And it is projected that by 2032, they would be exporting about 180 billion US dollars. And Europe, so you can see the trend, Europe is much less, and then Asia Pacific, so China is somewhere here, India also, and the rest of the world, Ghana may be somewhere here. Okay. And so here we are also with the herbal medicine markets. This is the global market. So from 2018 all the way projection to 2032. So in 2023, the globally 165.1 billion US dollars. And 2024, by the end of 2024, it's projected that it will go out all the way to 189.3 billion US dollars. And it is projected by 2032, where it would go all up to 386.07 billion US dollars. So let's look at the picture in Africa. The African herbal market. The African herbal medicinal industry has the potential also to compete globally. The economic value of trade in raw materials or raw medicinal plants in South Africa is estimated at 2.9 billion rands, and that is 165 million US dollars. This is South Africa per year. Now, the South African CSIR, the Council for Scientific Industrial Research, research and development work on African ginger has shown that active extracts can improve symptoms associated with allergic and infectious diseases. And they have shown that a major compound, fluoroterpenoids, to be responsible, these are responsible for this biological activity. And the activity includes treatment of asthma. And they have a patent, an international patent for the discovery. In Morocco, annual revenues generated from the export of medicinal plants, that is Morocco and Egypt, was 55.9 million US dollars and 174.2 million US dollars respectively. About 90% of the herbal medicines traders in southern and central Malawi derive more than 50% of their household income from selling medicinal plants. And over 61,000 kilograms of non-powdered medicines valued at over 344,000 are traded in informal herbal medicine markets in Tanzania per year. Leading market players like China are investing heavily in research and development to expand their production and facilitate further growth of the market. Various strategies are being taken, including increasing investments, launching new products, contractual agreements, collaboration with other organizations, and all of these are going on. The herbal medicine industry must offer cost-effective items to expand and survive in a more competitive and rising market climate. One of the key business strategies or tactics used by the manufacturers in the herbal medicine industry is to manufacture locally to minimize operational costs and benefit clients and increase the market sector. Let's look at Ghana. The Ghana herbal medicine industry is a main source of employment, in the country, as a number of people are involved in the value chain of herbal medicine industry. About 951 tons of crude herbal medicine estimated at 7.8 million US dollars were traded in Ghana's herbal medicine market in 2010. Currently, the revenue generated from medicinal plants in Ghana is unknown, but it could be quite significant. In a Ghana Web News, that is in November 2022, Professor Ato Duncan, a traditional medicine practitioner, asked the government to refocus its attention on herbal medicine industry as it has the potential to generate revenue in excess of 30 million Ghana cedis. At the Traditional and Herbal Medicine Week celebration just about 2 weeks ago, Professor Duncan, current president of GAFTRAM, stated that the industry would generate 76 million US dollars with concerted efforts. So I got this from, I tried to get some data, but I was struggling from the Statistical Service. And this is what I found. So if you look here, you see that if you can see, the commodities listed here, plant medicine or medicinal plants or herbal medicine is not in here, but we have up here in purple other products. So it appears that it may be somewhere up here. And so even if you go up here for all the other products put together, here is trade flow in billion Ghana cedis. So all of them put together in 2022 was 13.2 billion Ghana cedis. And in 2023 was 19.6, that's about 20 billion Ghana cedis. All of them put together. And imagine that herbal medicine is somewhere in there. We don't know how much. So actually, it needs to step out. Yes, that's is the message. It has to come out. So let's look at challenges associated with the industry. I start off with standardization. Dosages and concentrations of active ingredients in herbal products are often inconsistent. They can vary in potency, quality, which raises concerns about dosage and safety. There's lack of data generally on shelf life of all herbal medicines, almost all most of them, no data on shelf. Regulatory hurdles. In many countries, herbal medicines are not subjected to the same regulatory standards as pharmaceutical drugs. Classification of many herbal products or as foods or dietary supplements in some countries, including Ghana, is a challenge. Because if you classify it as food, it will not go through that rigorous regulatory profile, and that's not healthy. Also, scientific validation. There's lack of robust scientific research and clinical studies. And this is in most of the products that we have on our markets. And that makes it unacceptable to mainstream medicinal or medical practitioners. Let's look at safety concerns. Herbs have been shown to be capable of producing a wide range of undesirable or adverse reactions, some of which are serious injuries, life-threatening conditions, and even death. And I will quickly add that orthodox and allopathic medicines can also do the same. Thorough toxicity assessment of plant medicines is necessary. Some herbal products may cause side effects with contraindications with conventional drugs when taken together. And so I am just about to describe for you one experiment that was done just to find out whether some of the markets on the drugs on the market, the medicinal products, have the likelihood to cause herb-drug interactions when taken together with orthodox drugs. So I describe here the modulation of rat liver microsomal cytochrome P450 enzymes by anti-malarial, anti-HIV, anti-tuberculosis plant medicines. Now, co-administration of herbal and conventional medicine could result in herb-drug interactions, which may be harmful or it also may be beneficial. Data on co-administration of herbal medicines and conventional medicine is sparse. However, the potential of herb-drug interactions is theoretically higher than drug-drug interactions. Why? Because herbs are multiple components and drugs usually have one or two components. And so that is where the potential comes. So drug interactions could result in clinical outcomes such as therapeutic failure, especially when the enzyme that has to metabolize the drug is enhanced. That quickly metabolize the drug, you don't get the effect. Or when that enzyme is inhibited, what has to break down the drugs for it to be useful, you stop it from working because of something you take that becomes a problem. So you have that drug, you take it in, it's been accumulated, and accumulation would most likely result in toxicity. Therefore, we investigated the effect of 9 common plant medicines on the market for their drug cytochrome P450 mediated drug interaction potential. So this is just a profile of what we did. We took the plants to quantify, we had to dry and dissolve and then use. And then we treated animals, we took their liver, took blood to test what's happening, safety and so on. Let's get into them. So what did we see? So we found that most of the plants tested altered the enzyme. We looked at 4 cytochrome P450 isoenzymes. The enzymes are like protein inside us. They help us when we take in food, when you take in something to break it down, to make it useful to your body. And you don't want to destroy them, okay? You need them to work so that you would survive. And so you want to see whether this plant, this medicine that we're taking, what is it doing to that system? I need that system to work. Is it helping it or is it not? And so this is what we did. And so most of the plant medicines altered these enzymes that we looked. So one of the medicines strongly increased this enzyme activity. And it's interesting because this enzyme, CYP1A2, for instance, is an enzyme that is responsible for metabolism of common drugs like acetaminophen or paracetamol, or Panadol and so on. And so if you increase that enzyme, it means then that if you take that drug and you take acetaminophen, what do you think will happen? You have a lot of a quick metabolism because a lot of it is in the blood. The doctor didn't know what you were taking. So you have a lot of it and it leaves. You are not going to get the outcome that you want. Therapeutic failure may hit you. And not only therapeutic failure, but when this enzyme metabolizes or breaks down a drug like paracetamol or acetaminophen, it forms a product that is toxic to the liver. And that is how come people take a lot of paracetamol and they get that toxicity. That is the product. And this is the enzyme that is usually the causative that causes that. Okay. And so you don't want to raise that concentration. Come to the other enzymes that were used, you see that most of the plants potentially inhibited this particular enzyme. This enzyme is very important for metabolism. If you've taken diclofenac before, the main substrate, one of the critical substrates is diclofenac, which we often take. And so if you inhibit the enzyme that will metabolize, just as explained, you understand what you're doing. And then we also have 4 out of the 9 of the medicines will increase CYP2D6 activity. It also has a class of enzymes that it metabolizes and so on. So that is just to give an idea of the implication of the study. So most of the significant changes that we found were in two particular medicinal plants showed very significant changes. And the KBA caused significant changes in serum cholesterol level. And we have these two, KT and KBA. I'm not disclose the names of, but if you read our paper, maybe you'll find out. So these showed significant changes, particularly these two seem to be culprits, causing significant changes in the blood parameters that were tested. And so further investigations are needed to establish the clinical relevance because this work was done in animals. And so you want to establish a clinical relevance in humans. And this can be done by just looking using human enzymes. You use animals in vitro, or you can use human enzymes in the test tube, and you can also get that. This study has also been published. So the risk of extinction of medicinal plants, the risk of extinction of medicinal plants is a major challenge. Now, factors associated with extinction of medicinal plants just a moment. Factors associated with extinction of medicinal plants include overexploitation, indiscriminate collection, uncontrolled forestation, habitat destruction, galamsey. Now, there is a threshold below which species reproductive capacity becomes irreversible. And we must try not to get there. So the most frequent I have here, most frequently collected and at risk of extinction plants. And this is very important that we are very careful in this country. So in conclusion, I want to say that significant effort has been made, or some efforts, let me say, effort has been made in the development of medicinal plants in Ghana by successive governments and other stakeholders. However, the efforts must be intensified to place the Ghana medicinal plants on the national commodities list. As I showed you, it is not on the commodities list. It is put together because it's very small. And we need to see it step out on the commodities list. and the global market as well. We mentioned the countries. Ghana was not listed there, and I think that is possible. Research has shown that several Ghanaian herbal medicines or medicinal plants are efficacious, safe, and can be used. They have a potential to compete globally. They have a potential to compete globally. The global herbal market, medicine market suggests that we are sitting on a gold mine, as other nations are earning billions of US dollars through strategic investments in the industry. The challenges associated with the plant medicine industry, as I enlisted, lack of funding, standardization, lack of it, scientific validation, clinical trials, conservation of plants, policy gaps, and all of these have to be worked on if we must make progress, and we must make progress. I have a couple of recommendations. Research scientists must work together with herbal medicine practitioners in trusts to ensure that there is rigorous scientific research to back herbal medicines for national and international acceptance. Leading market players are investing heavily in research and development of, to expand their production. Ghana must do the same. We need more clinical trials. This is very serious. Pharmacovigilance of herbal medicines is critical. It's critically important for developing reliable information on the efficacy and safety of herbal medicines. Advocacy is needed to pass for the passage of the Alternative Medicines Bill for the implementation of the integration of plant medicines into the health care system. Documentation and preservation of indigenous knowledge on herbal medicine for future generations is necessary, while respecting the intellectual property rights of indigenous communities. The Nagoya Protocol on access and benefit sharing and the legal and ethical obligations associated with using traditional knowledge and bringing new species to the market must be followed as we seek to raise revenue for national development. Traditional medicine practitioners and researchers must be educated, must receive more education on filing of patents, and be encouraged to file them for resource generation. E-commerce is a useful tool to enhance our trade in plant medicine. We must employ it. Ghana must adopt important strategies to conserve medicinal plants and harness them for revenue and national development. I have one strategy here from Chen and colleagues that I would like to. I think that it is good that we already have it. Interestingly, we have them, but just that we have to ensure that we implement them. So they have this conservation strategy, in situ, ex situ, and so on. But most importantly, if you just look here, the natural reserves, the wild nurseries, botanic gardens, seed banks, good agricultural practices, are these new? We just have to ensure that we have it, we get it right, and so that we can conserve our medicinal plants. Now, to avoid the extinction of medicinal plants, overexploitation, indiscriminate collection, uncontrolled deforestation, habitat destruction, again, Galamsey, must be stopped. And that is very important, must be stopped. Biodiversity must be protected progressively by identifying key medical plants for conservation. And the government must lead the effort towards the promotion of cultivation of medicinal plants facing extinction. In connection with the SDG 9, the government and stakeholders must invest in large medicinal plant plantations to create job opportunities in the country. This will give us a lot of job opportunities and we don't need galamsey. Ghana can soar high in the global market and reap significant revenues from the medicinal plants, for national development if all hands are on deck. So government, policymakers, regulatory bodies, traditional medicine practitioners, academia, research institutions, and all other stakeholders. If we all put our hands on deck, we will get there. We can make it. So these are my collaborators, my sponsors. And I leave you with this take-home message. Let us have a renewed liking for our medicinal plants. This morning I was telling somebody, just look around your house. You have a lot of them already. So by extension, let us promote and enjoy our local things, our local food, especially our fruits, our vegetables, livestock, our local things, by extension. Finally, let us be true ambassadors of our beloved nation, the Republic of Ghana, by advocating and ensuring the proper development of our natural resources, including the medicinal plants, for revenue generation. I am ending with this quote by Professor Eric Wood. And he said, useful plants follow humanity everywhere. It is nature telling us to pay attention to them. And I would say that it is God telling us to pay attention to them. I thank you for your attention.
Hello, my hope is found. He is my life, my strength, my soul. This cornerstone, this solid ground, firm through the fiercest drought and storm. What heights of love, what depths of peace, when fears are stilled, when striving cease, my comforter, my all in all. Here in the love of Christ, I stand. In Christ alone, who took on flesh, fullness of God, helpless babe, this gift of love and righteousness, scorned by the ones he came to save, till on that cross as Jesus died, the wrath of God was satisfied, for every sin on him was laid. Here in the death of Christ I live. From life's first cry to final breath, Jesus commands my destiny. Till all the long, no, I'm alive, never pluck me from his hands. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from hands, till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ I'll stand. No power of hell, no scheme of man can ever pluck me from his hands, till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ, I'll stand till he returns or calls me home. Here in the power of Christ, I'll stand.
Thank you very much. Can you hear me? Well, I must say that our speaker has done more than justice to the topic and proven that indeed the medicinal plants in Ghana is more than gold. And I think she needs another round of applause. This has been quite an education, actually. But just picking a few nuts and bolts here, because it's not possible to summarize this exquisitely developed and thought through lecture. She started giving a brief history of medicinal use, and she said the talk was centered on the SDGs 3, 8, and 9. Started biblically with verse and chapter and verse, that fruits are for food, plants for medicine, and in memorial, humans have used medicinal plants, and that WHO data shows that in Africa, at least 80% of the population will seek primary health care through the use of herbs. And then she mentioned a few of the classical medicines that are from drugs. That's codeine, quinine, and then another learning point, about 400,000 plant species on Earth. I wasn't aware of that. And only a small fraction is being used. And the impact of traditional medicine on culture, economics, and healthcare. In Ghana, mostly using herbs until colonial masters introduced the commercial use of medicines. And then she went on to the introduction of looking at use of medicines. The person who was central to this was Professor Akyinbah, and the 1961 role of CSIR and plant research. And then training, she touched on the training institutions, KNUST currently bachelor's and various certification, and then schools of pharmacies, KNUST, University of Ghana, and it really is now opening up. So building capacity for the training. And then she went to her work, and this is what has been exhaustive, the amount of research she's done to show the role of medicines in disease treatment. And she's worked on various drug constructs on malaria, trypanosomiasis, that's sleeping sickness, and then also leishmaniasis, and the whole process of going through the exhaustive research work to prove sensitivity, specificity, selectivity, and toxicity before you can identify that something actually works. And then her work, so not only in the parasites, her work in cancers. These are 23 plants that she looked at the cancer impacts, leukemia cells, using breast cancer cells and prostate. And so the exhaustive work that Professor Appiah-Oppong has done is really, really quite commendable. And then she then looked at leishmaniasis, which interestingly is found in the northern, towards the Sahara, area in the northern spheres, but a species found in Ho, and the work that has led to identifying a promising lead compound for leishmaniasis. Then she also touched on commercialization and how Europe has, commercialized the use of herbal medicine, and the use of herbal medicine in China, Germany, Britain, and Japan. The population largely use of herbal medicine. And then she comes to Africa and a lack of concentration on the herbal industry that the government should really concentrate on, and the role of various compounds that has been identified through CSIR, the major components listed. And then she went on to talk about the challenges. Many challenges, lack of data, the doses, because we lack data and scientific validation, we don't have the problems with dosage, safety, quality, and regulatory processes. And that the need for government to focus on herbal medicine. And then she went on to list 9 plants on the market that they looked at its impact on very important enzymes. And, this is completely exhaustive, but now I'll just list a few conclusions that she made, and that we really have to concentrate on drug development in Ghana. Research potential, we have the potential to compete commercially and globally. And the Ghana medicinal plant industry is a gold mine which is untapped. The challenges and her recommendations, advocacy, and I like the bit about medicinal plant plantations for the unemployed. And I think that is, and avoid extinction. I think the major part is avoiding extinction. And we all know that not only galamsey is polluting our environment, the water we drink, but the diversity, biodiversity of this much rich resource that we have, and that should be stopped, to preserve our biodiversity. So stopping galamsey and preserving biodiversity. So in a nutshell, we've had a rich lecture, and we thank the speaker once again. Thank you very much.
Yes, let's kindly also thank our chairperson for summarizing a very difficult subject for us. All right. Department of Clinical Pathology, Noguchi Memorial Institute for Medical Research, the primary department of Professor Appiah-Oppong, who would like to make a presentation. Please, you are welcome. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you. Right, so thank you very much. We would like to once again acknowledge the sponsors this event, the Ghana Standards Authority, Professor Ato Duncan, Executive President and Chief Executive Officer of COA Herbal Center, Mr. Techi Nutifafa, Manager of Executive Prostate and Herbal Center, Center for Plant Medicine Research, Mampong Equiapim, Nana Enchidakwa, Chief Executive Officer, Hokrad Group. Of course, we acknowledge all of us here making the time to be present at this lecture. I'd like us to especially acknowledge our young colleagues, the future leaders, scientists, artists, and professionals of this country from Accra Academy and Accra Girls Senior High School. Thank you for making the time. Upcoming events. I'm pleased to inform all of us that there will be a Founders Week program. The theme for the program is Leveraging on the Fourth Industrial Revolution. This will take place from the 12th to the 15th November 2024 in this auditorium starting 5:30 p.m. each day. I think it looks like an interesting program, so we invite all of us to make it to the program. I'm also happy to inform us that refreshments will be available when the program ends. And for our students, refreshments will be packaged for you so that you are able to set off and get back to your campuses in time. Right. I don't know them, so you call them. And they have to make it quick. Tell them that they have to make it quick. Right. We are informed that Professor Appiah-Opong's children would like to make a presentation. So you're welcome. Thank you. Thank you very much. Right. So, ladies and gentlemen, all too soon, I think we proceeded to come to the end of the program. As mentioned, there will be refreshment in the foyer outside. And I wish all of us a good evening. Thank you. I will kindly request that as the speaker and the chair exits the platform, that you humbly stand up and let them proceed. Thank you.
Order my steps in your word, dear Lord. Lead me, guide me every day. Send your anointing, Father, I pray. Order my steps in your word. Please order my steps in your word. Order my steps in your word, dear Lord. Lead me, guide me every day. Send your anointing, Father, I pray. Order my steps in your word. Please order my steps in your word. Humbly I ask thee, teach me your will while you are working makes me